It was supposed to be a celebration of kindness until Ellen DeGeneres revealed that the woman who taught the world to be kind had forgotten how to be kind to herself. Studio 6B was filled with bittersweet anticipation that Thursday evening. The Tonight Show's signature blue and gold lights cast their familiar warm glow as the Roots laid down a gentle, nostalgic groove. 300 audience members filled every seat, their energy both celebratory and melancholy for someone who had been America's daytime companion for nearly 2 decades. Jimmy Fallon, impeccable in his navy suit, bounded onto the stage with that infectious enthusiasm, though notably tempered with the respect due to tonight's legendary guest. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jimmy announced with genuine warmth and reverence, "please welcome someone who has brightened millions of days, spread countless smiles, and taught us all what it means to be kind, the incomparable Ellen DeGeneres." The applause was thunderous and sustained, filled with genuine love and gratitude as Ellen emerged from backstage. At 65, she moved with that characteristic blend of confidence and approachability that had made her a household name, yet there was something slightly more subdued about her presence tonight. Her elegant lavender blazer was perfectly styled. Her signature blonde hair was impeccably coiffed, and that smile, that famous Ellen smile that had launched 1,000 dance moves, was present but somehow seemed to require more effort than usual. She waved to the adoring crowd with that familiar Ellen charm, her movements graceful but carrying a weight that hadn't been there in her earlier years. When she spoke her first words, "Hey Jimmy," "Hey everybody," her voice carried that recognizable warmth, but there was something almost fragile about her delivery. "Ellen," Jimmy exclaimed, practically glowing with affection, "you look absolutely wonderful. I have to say, seeing you here, knowing this is part of your farewell tour, it's emotional for all of us. You've been such a force of positivity in the world," and something almost imperceptible flickered across Ellen's face at the word positivity, a brief shadow that suggested the compliment carried unexpected weight. "Thank you, Jimmy. That's very sweet," she replied with a smile that seemed to require conscious effort. The conversation began warmly, touching on Ellen's career, retrospective, her final shows, and her thoughts on legacy. Every answer was thoughtful and gracious, delivered with the media savvy that had made her one of television's most beloved figures. But there was something slightly more careful about her responses, as if she was choosing her words more deliberately than usual. "You know, Ellen," Jimmy said, leaning forward with obvious admiration, "your impact on this world is just immeasurable. For 19 years, you've been this beacon of kindness, this voice telling people to be good to one another. You've literally made the world a better place." Ellen's smile became more strained. "Jimmy, I appreciate that, but—" "Which is perfect," Jimmy interrupted, reaching into his jacket with renewed enthusiasm, "because I thought we'd celebrate that incredible legacy tonight with something special. I'm calling it the Be Kind Legacy segment." The audience immediately responded with warm applause, excited to honor their beloved host's most famous message. Ellen's expression became noticeably more tense. "Oh," Ellen said with a laugh that sounded forced, "Jimmy, I don't know if—" "It's going to be beautiful," Jimmy explained, pulling out cards featuring inspirational quotes and kindness messages. "I've got some of your most powerful moments of spreading kindness here, and you can share what motivated those messages, what kindness means to you." Ellen looked at the cards, and for a moment something painful flickered across her features. "Jimmy, can I tell you something?" "Of course," Jimmy said, his enthusiasm beginning to shift to concern. "I don't think I can do this tonight." The studio fell into an uncomfortable silence. This wasn't the confident, uplifting Ellen they expected. Jimmy set down the cards and leaned forward, his entertainer's instincts immediately replaced by human concern. "Ellen, what's going on?" Ellen looked out at the sea of expectant faces, and when she spoke again, her voice carried a weariness that was heartbreaking to hear from someone known for her endless energy. "I'm tired, Jimmy. I'm so tired of being kind." The audience was completely stunned. This wasn't the Ellen DeGeneres they had known and loved for decades. "For 19 years, Ellen continued, tears beginning to form in her eyes, "I've ended every show by telling people to be kind to one another. And I meant it, I really did. But somewhere along the way, I forgot to be kind to myself." The vulnerability in her admission was devastating. Jimmy made a decision that transcended television. He stood up from behind his desk and walked around to sit in the chair beside Ellen. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was one human being trying to support another who was clearly struggling. "When did you realize you were running on empty?" Jimmy asked gently. "Probably years ago," Ellen replied immediately. "But you can't just stop being Ellen DeGeneres, you know? People depend on you to be the happy one, the positive one, the one who makes everything okay." The pain in her voice was so raw that several audience members were visibly moved. "Do you know what it's like?" Ellen asked, and there was something almost desperate in her question. "To have millions of people looking at you, to be their source of joy when you're struggling to find your own, to have to smile and dance and tell jokes when all you want to do is go home and cry?" Jimmy stayed quiet, letting her continue. "The show ended not just because of the controversy," Ellen said, her voice breaking. "It ended because I couldn't pretend to be happy anymore. I couldn't keep telling people to be kind when I was being so unkind to myself, demanding perfection, never allowing myself to have bad days, never letting myself be human." Tears were flowing freely now, and the sight of Ellen DeGeneres, the woman who had dried countless tears, crying about her own exhaustion, was profound. "You want to know the truth about be kind?" she asked, looking directly at Jimmy. "I have been kinder to strangers, to audiences, to everyone else than I've ever been to myself. I've given so much kindness away that I forgot to save any for Ellen." The silence in the studio was complete, except for the sound of Ellen's quiet sobbing. "And the worst part is," Ellen continued, "I feel guilty about feeling this way. Like I'm ungrateful for this incredible platform I've had. Like I'm letting people down by admitting that the happy person they loved was sometimes just a character I was playing." "Ellen," Jimmy said with profound gentleness, "what would it look like to show yourself the same kindness you've shown everyone else?" "I don't know," Ellen admitted. "I honestly don't know what that would look like. I've been Ellen the happy host for so long that I don't remember what Ellen the person needs." When they returned from commercial break, they had a completely different conversation. Ellen talked about the pressure of being everyone's source of positivity, about learning to separate her public persona from her private struggles, about slowly rediscovering what it meant to be authentically herself. "The thing about being known for kindness," Ellen said as the interview wound down, "is that people forget you need kindness too. They forget that the person spreading joy might sometimes need joy spread to them." Jimmy nodded thoughtfully. "And maybe the kindest thing you can do now is give yourself permission to not always be kind, to be real instead." "Maybe," Ellen said, and for the first time in the entire interview, her smile looked completely genuine, tired but real. "Maybe the most radical thing I can do is admit that even the person who preaches kindness sometimes needs to learn how to receive it." Then she did something unprecedented. She turned to the audience and said, "You know what? Instead of me telling you to be kind to one another tonight, can you do me a favor? Can you be kind to yourselves? Can you give yourselves the same grace you'd give a friend?" The applause that followed was unlike anything The Tonight Show had ever heard. It wasn't appreciation for entertainment. It was recognition of courage, of someone brave enough to be vulnerable about the cost of always being strong for others. The episode aired exactly as it happened, unedited. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Mental health organizations reported record calls from people in helping professions. Caregivers around the world wrote letters about feeling permission to acknowledge their own needs. And Ellen DeGeneres, for the first time in years, took a day to do absolutely nothing kind for anyone except herself. But perhaps the most meaningful response came from a teacher who wrote, "Ellen, I've been so focused on taking care of everyone else, my students, my family, my community, that I forgot I needed taking care of too. After watching your show, I realized that self-compassion isn't selfish. It's necessary. Thank you for showing me that the kindest thing I can do is be honest about when kindness is hard." It wasn't just late-night television. It was a reminder that those who dedicate their lives to lifting others up need lifting up themselves, and that sometimes the most revolutionary act of kindness is admitting when you're running on empty and need to be filled back up. The woman who had taught the world to be kind finally gave herself permission to receive the kindness she had spent decades giving away, and somehow that felt like the most beautiful message of all.